A U.S. Army veteran arrested and now awaiting deportation appeared before an immigration judge in Florence. ICE arrested Marlon Parris back in January, and the government is now trying to deport him.
12 News journalist William Pitts was the only TV reporter in the courtroom today and talked to Parris's family afterwards.
Marlon Parris had a green card. He was a permanent resident and a military veteran. He thought he was safe until he wasn't. Standing outside the ICE detention center, Tanisha Hartwell Parris spoke as passing drivers yelled at her.
This is unfortunately an ongoing issue.
She would like to go home to Levine. She'd like her husband, a permanent U.S. resident, to come home too.
Thousands of us are going through this right now, and this is just not what this country should stand for. He is here legally, and this is where he belongs with his family.
He's a U.S. Army veteran, served 3 tours in Iraq. So how does a U.S. Army veteran end up in deportation proceedings?
We have all documentation, all paperwork, everything that proves that my husband has every right to be in America.
Marlon's had a green card since 1997. That let him enlist in the military, which would give him citizenship. But Marlon never applied. He was arrested and pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute cocaine in 2011. He served 5 years and was released early. After that, Tanisha says ICE gave him a letter that said they weren't interested in deporting him.
For 9 years. For 9 years. We have not had to worry about anything for 9 years.
Marlon and Tanisha say they traveled out of the country with no issues until October 2023, when border agents took his green card at the airport. Tanisha says they were working to get it back, but 2 days after Donald Trump took office, Tanisha says ICE agents stopped him in Levine and arrested him.
I firmly believe in his case, which is why we took it on, and so we're doing the absolute best to get him out.
Marlon's lawyer says this doesn't happen often, the government changing its mind.
They're quite rare in the fact that the government had previously exercised discretion to allow him to remain in the country, and now it seems as though they're revoking that exercise of discretion.
My husband, who has served this country honorably, is in a very unjust situation by wrongfully being detained by ICE. I have to be his voice because he does not have one.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tanisha Hartwell Parris. Both of you.
You have torn the heart from our family. You have imprisoned a decorated, disabled U.S. Army veteran in a wheelchair. He is trying to be the best human he possibly can and to not agree with characterizations of him that do not match who he is.
Before Zahid joined the military, he was volunteering for the Yakima Fire Department, also with the Red Cross, and that was just what he wanted to do to serve his community.
But his repeated applications for U.S. citizenship were denied. Once for failing to disclose years-old misdemeanor convictions from his time in Australia, and again for allegedly misrepresenting himself as a U.S. citizen when volunteering for the Yakima Police Department.
This is the application for the Yakima Police Department volunteer position. This is the form that has gotten Zahid in trouble. His answers are marked in very neat X's all the way down. Whoever went through this form at the police department, checking references, made check marks. The only other check mark is the very first question. City of Yakima Civil Service rules require some employees to be U.S. citizens. Can you provide such documentation? The answer options are yes or no. And Zahid did not understand the question and in fact asked the police reserve officer in charge when he turned this application in to him what that meant. And the officer told him just check yes, but he was still unsure, so he had left it blank. And it has been filled in with a check mark, not an X. And that is what has gotten him into trouble for deportation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Melissa Chaudhry. Test. Okay, we're here. One of the things that is overlooked in the deported veteran issue is how it affects the families, and that families are affected. I believe that they feel that it's very easy to just look at the person on the sheet that they've chosen to say, hey, this is the person we're going to get rid of, and not give a damn about whether or not you are taking that person is someone's mother or father, is someone's father, or someone's son or daughter, brother or sister, aunt or uncle. And the impact, I believe, on families has been well overlooked. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today and sharing your situation. Tanisha, when you met Marlon, things got serious. How did you approach the immigration status?
At that time, I didn't feel like there was anything to approach. He had a letter from the Department of Homeland Security specifically stating he took accountability for his 2011 situation. At that time, they could have deported him. They chose not to in 2016. They came into the NGL facility in Texas and gave him a letter of no interest stating that he had served this country, and they were choosing to exercise their discretion and to allow him to stay in the country. Of course, making sure that he did not have any other offenses. That was 2016. So by the time we met, there was nothing for me to even question. He hasn't even gotten a speeding ticket. So he's the prime example of rehabilitation. Did his time, took accountability, came out, got his degree, graduated cum laude from GCU in Phoenix, started our family business. So for me, it was a done deal. He even renewed his green card successfully. If there was anything wrong with his immigration status, you can't renew your green card successfully after you have, been released. So we had no reason to question anything. We love to travel. We were never questioned coming in and out of the country with his green card. So there was never anything to question until we knew who the next elected official was going to be.
Okay.
And that changed everything.
Unfortunately. Melissa, basically the same question. When you and Chaudhry spoke about this issue that he was that was a part of his past, how did you reconcile and say, well, yes, we can move forward and have a family and feel safe that there was a future for you guys going forward?
First of all, thank you for having me here. Second, I'd like to situate us just a little bit. My husband Zahid was taken just over 2 months ago, and he is about half a mile from where we sit. He is down on the tide flats. Amongst all those lights you see glittering down there, there's one of the largest detention facilities in the country, Northwest Ice Processing Center. And he's one of about 1,600 people who are currently being held there under conditions that are far worse than federal prison. They have no windows. They have minimal time outdoors. They are deeply undernourished, and they interfere with time with the family. I have had visitation in federal prison. You get to sit at the table and hold hands and hug your kids. There, our 2-year-old daughter and our almost 1-year-old son can only talk to their dad over the phones and behind the glass like he's some kind of criminal. This is a man who has given everything for this country. This is a man who is in a wheelchair with 100% VA service-connected disability. This is a man who has spent the last 20-odd years since his injuries serving as a firefighter before the injuries, but then serving on boards and nonprofits and affordable housing and counseling suicidal veterans and sheltering abused women and children. Like, he is the epitome of what an American should be. And he's there. I didn't think it was going to be a problem. I knew that he had an appeal pending. I knew that they had tried to deport him on pretext back in 2008. I knew, because the ACLU has done some great research on this, that there used to be a secret program called CARP, the Controlled Application Review and Resolution Program. It's basically the extreme vetting, terrorist watch list stuff applied to immigration. CARP was not authorized by Congress 11 times, and USCIS implemented it in secret. So they throw anything at you. You can never challenge being on that list. They're not transparent about whether you are or not, and they will come up with any pretext to deny your application and seek to deport you. So he's been there. In 2008, he was given a final removal order. He's been fighting that actively for the last 17 years. That case is right now at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, one step below the Supreme Court. His date's in January. And it was after the Ninth Circuit said, yes, great, briefing is complete, we're about to rule on this, that USAS suddenly said, hey, all of these applications you've been sending in, come in for an interview. So he had a naturalization interview on August 21st, and ICE was waiting in the hallway for him. USAS didn't even tell him he was denied. ICE was waiting outside 5 seconds later.
Sorry about that, sister. That's ridiculous. So basically, what you're hearing is our government is not just is not just arbitrarily going. They're targeting veterans. They're targeting certain members of the military to go after them. They knew that he was coming in. They knew that her husband was was headed to going to be going out for some on one of his trips to do any one of his chores and stuff. They were waiting for him, 6 cars to come around him. So when people try to sit back and say, hey, this person did something wrong, or this person, they're criminals, they're that. You saw in this film, Kevin Martinez never was convicted of any crime. You met David, never was convicted of any crime. This man never served his sentence. Marlon Parris served his sentence, was given, unfortunately, by Trump's first administration, did just like we've learned, is they gave him a contract, they made a deal with him, and then they came back and reneged on that deal. What they're doing to these two families is ridiculous, and that's why we need you guys to get involved. You're seeing, and you're going to see even more different ways for you to advocate, but these women should not be having to stand by and do this alone. Now, I know you got a hell of a team going on out here, and you're sparking it down there in Arizona, but that's not enough, because they are iconic to the whole issue all across the nation. You've been seeing that in the news. They're not the only family that's being affected by this. But we need you to get involved. That's what those toolkits are going to be later on, that we'll tell you about later on. But please understand that. I don't want to hold. One more question before we get up out of here. I know you ran for office. I heard about that, but I'm going to ask you, was part of it the impetus for your husband's case?
Part of the impetus for me running?
Uh-huh.
No, I wouldn't say it that way, but I would look at this in the other causality. I ran for Congress last year. I made it through the primary election, and I faced off in the general against Adam Smith, a 28-year incumbent in South King County. My husband and I are very much on the record for our support of the human rights of the Palestinian people. And we were at the front of every march that we could get at last summer. Thank you. One week before Zahid's detention, the USCIS put out a policy memo changing how they thought about people accused of anti-Semitism and increasing enforcement activity and increasing targeting specifically. 1 week before that came out in the second week of August this year. So there may be some causality. There may be a correlating factor there. So that's the direction I look at this in. Right now, it's about justice. It's about truth. It's about honesty. It's about integrity. And it's about whether our country is going to betray or uphold the principles that truly make our nation great. Thank you.
All right. I love it. Both of you take the time to think about this, because this is going to be sensitive, and I hope I'm not invading your privacy, but I kind of want America to know. What is it like at home with your kids, your family? How are they responding to it? I know you spoke about how they're able to communicate with their dad, but what are the challenges and stuff that you're dealing with at home now?
When he got ripped away from us, I mean, we have 7 kids in the home, so it's extremely hard. We ran our own business that financially is completely ripped away from us. We made the hard decision. He was detained January 22nd. We got tired of fighting. Court dates got pushed back. Things were not going as planned. He became a pawn in this political propaganda. I refused to let my husband be the pawn to anyone. We made the hard decision to tell our attorney we're done, concede, self-deport, whatever you want to call it, get him out of detention. We made that decision in May. The judge signed off on it in June. They then still took about 60 days to release him after we said, we're done, we want to leave. They released him in August. So for us and for our family, we had this conversation as soon as we knew that Trump was going to take office. Even though he shouldn't have been detained, we prepared our children for the potential worst, and the worst happened. With him being free now, even though it's not the outcome, I'm still here because we're still fighting. We're just fighting from afar, but his freedom was everything because it gave us an opportunity to reconnect with him. I don't have to talk to my husband through a glass because, once again, the facility that he was at in Florence, at one point, you could sit across the table. I literally, Tuesdays and Saturdays, was talking to my husband on a phone through a glass, absolutely no contact from January to August. So we're torn that we had to make that hard decision, but I'm so glad that our kids were able to reconnect. We're able to reconnect and we're able to be in each other's physical presence. And that's what's more important right now. Why I am still in America, fighting the fight for him. I will forever be his voice. I'm here for him and for every veteran. I didn't even know this was a thing until my husband was caught in it. Because how does that even sound? You are deporting people who truly serve this country. He did 2 tours to Iraq at the very beginning, OIF 1 and OIF 3. So that's Operation Iraqi Freedom. And for him to go through the things that he has been through, 3 brain surgeries from, aneurysms and hemorrhaging, subdural hematomas. He has severe PTSD. He still is service connected. That's what's so funny about all of this. They still are service connected. He still gets its VA disability. So how is that possible if you're saying that he should not even be here? And then if he were to die outside of this country, they would fly his body back for an honorary burial. It makes absolutely no sense. But for us, we're going to do what we have to do at the moment. And that is his freedom, and for us to be united until something changes. And we are both, I know, going to be the voice continuously for families to make this change.
Amen.
Our son learned how to walk 2 weeks after Zahid was taken from us. Our 2.5-year-old daughter, our son's name is Adil, which means justice. His big sister's name is Selma, which means peace. Our kids' names are peace and justice. Like that's where we're at as a family, as people. And Selma asks me, she says, why did they take my Baba away? And I tell her it's because they're mean. And she says, what are they mean for? Her little 2.5-year-old voice. I say it's because they're paid money to be mean because we have a bad leader in this country. And when I have to go away from her, as I do right now, and she says in her little voice, she says, Mama, I don't want you to go away from me. I tell her that I'm working to get her Baba home. And I've been telling her that long enough now that now she asks me, Mama, have you got Baba home yet? You can't get this time back. You can't get these connections back. A parent's presence is formative at these, especially at these tender ages, but it's traumatic anytime. Why? What did he do? What did we do? What did my kids do to deserve this? I wish anyone with any degree of power and honesty could answer that question. Otherwise, get him the fuck out of there before the thyroid eye disease causes irreversible blindness that surgery can't cure.
Thank you. Thank both of you for coming and sharing your story, sharing your trauma. Hopefully, those of you here in the audience and those of you at home, you don't walk away from this going, wow, that was just, that was crazy. That was messed up. We need your help so this does not continue further. And the advocacy, as you're going to wind up finding out, comes from anywhere inside your spirit, your soul. Whether it's baking, whether it's fundraising, whether it's screaming at the yard. Out in the yard. There's something that you can do so that this does not continue to happen. I want to thank you, ladies, once again for coming and join us, and God bless you. I know we got to get you on it. All right, God bless. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break, so take your legs out for a second. Kind of a little heavy. Get ready to come in, get into some more serious stuff with the legislation and advocacy, and honor some of our veterans that did not make it back. So God bless you. What you heard and you see.